It's all about the experience, customer experience, that is. So, what's the secret these days? Customers use any number of channels to communicate with brands: email, phone, social, point of sale. All are critical touch points. How are companies managing this diversity, this complexity? Check out this episode of Future Proof to find out.
The future is here already. It's just not evenly distributed. Yet. Today's world teems with innovation. The nexus of hardware, software, and human ingenuity promises a revolution in possibilities. What does tomorrow look like? Witness Future Proof.
What's the big deal in the information economy these days? The experience. It's all about the experience, folks, the customer experience. Of course, the partner experience, the user experience. That experience had better be good if you're going to keep your customers, if you're going to keep them happy. There are lots of options these days. It's very easy to leave a certain service provider. You can just get tired and go to a new service provider. So we're going to talk about customer experience and how that gets done, all the interesting stuff that happens behind the scenes and under the covers in order to get you that high quality customer experience. And I can tell you, I remember a number of years ago, one of the first companies to figure out that they could grab my record from my phone number. I was like, hooray, they figured it out. They know this is the number associated with my account. They could bring up my call record when I call into the call center and do a good job helping me. What a fantastic innovation that was. Well, the gentleman on the call today know all about that. We're going to be hearing from Dan Bodner. He's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Verint that does all kinds of good stuff in customer experience. And Andy Roberts, who is with the Sabio Group out of UK. They do similar things. And we're going to talk about call center as a service. So what does that mean? So call center as a service is a new kind of technology. And basically, as the name implies, it's a service provided to companies that want call centers. What do you have to do? You have to line up all these different systems, get the data there, make sure you have good people, of course, on the phone. All that stuff comes in handy. But the experts are going to tell us what's going on. So first of all, Dan Bodner, welcome to Inside Analysis. Tell us a bit about yourself and your amazing journey at Verint since what, 1994? That's like the last millennium or something, right? Tell us what's going on.
Yes, hi Eric, and hello everyone. So it's all about CX, customer experience, and today it's all about CX automation. With AI coming to play, finally we can use bots to help the agents to improve customer experience. So happy to talk about that. But a little bit about Verint. Yes, we started in 1994. At that time, it was all about taking unstructured data, mostly voice and speech data, and analyze it to find insights in the data. 10 years later, in the 2006 timeframe, we created workforce optimization. This was about giving the workforce tools so they can perform their work better, because contact center, as you mentioned, are very labor intense. There's a lot of people working. So we kept that journey with marrying data, mostly unstructured data, initially speech, but also text and video, and giving workforce engagement tools, more capabilities. But really, what's exciting is a few years ago we started to put together Verint Da Vinci AI at the core of the platform. So the workforce is starting to use AI, and of course today with Gen AI, the workforce is no longer just people. It's really people and bots working together, and that increased the capacity of the workforce tremendously and allow the workforce really to get a more enjoyable and elevated customer experience for the consumers, which is really what the industry has been trying to do for many, many years. But because it's very expensive to hire people, it's also very hard to find them and train them. And then they don't have the time really to delight their customers. So now, with the help of bots working side by side with people, I think we're getting to now to a point that we can actually achieve more with the same resources, same budget. So our customers can delight their consumers with better customer experience through the consumption of bots.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there with the same budgets line. That's the kind of thing that makes the COOs at your clients very happy, and the CFOs, because you typically hear about new, fun, interesting things that cost more money. So if you can deliver a better experience, a more streamlined experience for the same budget, That makes people really happy. So the vendor experience is pretty good too, right?
Absolutely. Our customers are happy because they can contain the budget, but also they want to do a better job. They know that they can differentiate from their competitors by giving better customer experience. So customer experience is not lost on brands. It's just that it's expensive. And with new technology and people and bots working together, they can now afford it and do more with the same budgets and at the same time delight their consumers so they can get more loyalty. They can get better revenue generation from their customers. So it's a win-win-win. The consumer obviously wins, and of course we all consumers ourselves. So we love to be on a call where everything goes very smoothly and we get a contextual and quick responses. So obviously it's a win for the consumers and it's a win for our customers because they can do more with the same budget, and it's a win for Variant because we get to sell new technology.
Yeah. Well, and just real quick before I bring Andy in to comment on this, I'd like to share with our audience there's so many ways in which machine learning and AI can help, and the automation component in particular. For example, skill path routing is something I learned about some 20 odd years ago. Over a course of time, if you have machine learning in place, you can track which call reps do better in certain scenarios. It could even be with certain demographics. If someone's calling in from Georgia or New York or New Jersey or wherever, it could be the location, it could be the age group, it could be the topic at hand that someone's calling about. And to be able to ascertain that kind of thing while the call is coming in and then route that path to the appropriate person, that's just one of many ways that you can really optimize the experience, right?
Absolutely, you hit the nail on. It's all about data, right? If you have the right data, then your AI can do machine learning on the data, and data power is really the Variant open platform. So basically, this data that we have in our platform, because we have been recording agents for many years, and that agent behavior is really the source of the data that empower the bots to do machine learning and emulate agents and try to do the job that and take some of the functions that humans are doing, replace it with automation. So yes, it's data, and there's lots of use cases for the data. You mentioned one, and I'm sure we're going to cover a few more on the show here, because the data does power the AI, and the AI powers automation.
Yeah, it's really wonderful stuff because what you're doing is you're leveraging, first of all, the organic energy and success of your team members. So everyone knows when you dial in, this call may be recorded for quality monitoring and assurance, right? Everyone understands that. But these days, you can automate that process. Now, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, most of the time, there was just some manager who was listening in and would take manual notes. But now, with the power of AI, there are all sorts of technologies. Gong comes to mind. There's some others out there that are very interesting. And I know that you guys have a whole bunch of good stuff too, where you can do sentiment analysis, even in real time, listening to someone to understand, uh-oh, this person's getting upset. Ding, hit a red flag, bring in the higher level service. Oh, it's a high value customer too. Oh, let's go all out, make sure this person is taken care of. You can trigger all those actions because you have this foundation of data, of real world data of what people said, how they said it, how timely the conversation was. All these little tidbits fold into a recommendation engine that then gets the job done for you, right? Real quick, Dan.
Yes, absolutely. So the data is the foundation. We call that the gym. The bots need to really go to the gym every day, 24/7, 24/7, and they train on that data so they become better and better and more accurate to augment the workforce.
Wow.
So yeah, the data is key, and real time obviously is very important. How do we help the agent in real time, whether it's suggestion knowledge or, as you said, pointing out the sentiment that needs to be addressed because the customer is frustrated. They don't really hear what you say, right? So slow down, take your time, show some empathy. These things can be done in real time because now all this technology is running in the cloud, and you have elastic processing power. So you can actually apply processing power in the cloud to create real-time AI outcomes, business outcomes for the agents. So the technology, of cloud technology, AI technology coming together and powered by data is really the secret sauce for increasing CX automation.
Yeah, that really is. It's the confluence of all these factors, as you suggest, cloud computing, AI, which is really mature now. I mean, AI has been around arguably for 45, 50 years. We went through a couple AI winters when the hype got too high and there just wasn't the compute power that we have today, but now it's everywhere. We have many different cloud providers. You could do some of this stuff on-prem. You don't have to go to the cloud, but it really does help to have this marshaling area because guess what? Those folks are busy making sure those servers hum as best they possibly can all day long. That's their job. So your job as the company using that service is to optimize what you're doing. And as you suggest, having that wealth of information, of rich, unstructured data, of audio files, text files, process models, all that fun stuff, it all comes together to create this springboard, basically, which is now in action, right? Right, Dan? Right now, that kind of technology is happening when people call the call centers today, right, Dan?
Oh, absolutely. We have hundreds of bot deployments across the largest brands in the world are now adopting AI-powered bots. So it's no longer just a hype. When you bring the bot into the platform and you embed it into existing workflows, so it doesn't disrupt the workforce, right? It's part of the natural flow of what the agent does. Because look, contact center agents don't have time to search with AI tools, right? They're not going to get on the internet and search because that means they have to put you on hold. And obviously that will take a longer call and a very poor customer experience. Right. So the goal of today's platform is to bring that AI to the fingertips of the workforce so it's embedded in their workflows and it can really empower them to be more productive. And the way we think about bots here at Variant is we created many bots. We have 35 bots right now in our platform. Each one is doing only one thing. But they do it very well. So I'll give you one example. One of the things the agent needs to do at the end of the call, when the customers sign off, is they have to summarize the call. Now, they don't like to do these summaries because it takes them time. They're not really good in typing. Right. And they've always been criticized, hey, the summary is really terrible English. So guess what? They call the Repabot and instantly they get a summary prepared and it's better summary that they can do themselves. So the agents are happy. You can cut 60 or 90 seconds of a call, which is a huge amount of savings. And obviously, it's a win-win-win for everyone. So this type of Gen AI is not just technology, it's really technology that is at the fingertips of the agent when they most need it. And this way you can really start to create business outcomes.
Talking to a couple veterans in customer experience. These folks really know what they're talking about. We're talking to Dan Bodner, CEO and co-founder of Verint, founded in 1994. I could do some quick math. That's 33 years ago. That's pretty impressive. You've been working with lots of different customers, and you got 33 bots. I think you said 33 or 35. Each
35.
35, each do different things. And a lot of people are now figuring out what this Gen AI stuff is all about. And it's not just being able to spin up fun little creative articles. There are lots of other things it does. Summarizing is one of the amazing things that it does. You can take a big long paper, feed it into one of these engines and say, give me a 2-page summary, and bam, it does. I actually did a fairly complex ETL job on Friday, scraping a bunch of content from the web and then using ChatGPT, actually using Bard by Google to create an ordered list. And it was like magic. It would have taken a couple hours for a good ETL person. It took me 5 minutes with these new tools. So there are very cool tools fueled by AI that are changing the game. And I'm excited to bring Andy Roberts now in from Sabio Group. Andy, you had some technical difficulties, but we got that solved. So I always blame the Russians for hacking, by the way. I'm pretty sure it was their fault. But Andy, tell us about your perspective on contact center or call center as a service and how it changes the game.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm calling in from London. It's actually not raining. It's beautiful out there at the moment. I can see St. Paul's over my shoulder. Yeah, I'm at Sabio, 25 years, so not quite as much as Dan, but we've been working with Verint since 2000 and been on the journey with them. Sabio are a specialist expert services company that really absolutely understand how to be able to deploy the technology and to be able to deliver return on investment and excellent customer experience. Everyone here gets up every morning trying to make the customer experience brilliant. As far as the journey is concerned around contact centers, call centers, the journey is quite an evolving one, and it's going at pace. The relationship that we have with Verint going back 20 years was very much around on-premise contact centers with all of the workforce engagement management technology that was on top of it. What we saw probably about 7 or 8 years ago was a move to cloud, and certainly the move to public cloud has really accelerated, and that's where the CCaaS development and be able to move to the public cloud has really gained pace. And what we've seen is that organizations who are delivering or moving to the cloud at different speeds. Digital native organizations are moving very quickly, and larger scale enterprises are moving a little bit slower. As far as open CCaaS is concerned, what we're able to see is the ability to be able to not just move to the cloud, but it's actually to be able to augment, to be able to bring other parts of the customer experience to life, and that is the whole of the Verint portfolio: quality monitoring, speech analytics, workforce management, but also all of the AI components as well. And Sabio have had a relationship with automation as long as we've been in existence. It started off with IVRs, and it moved to natural language speech recognition. And more recently, it's been around conversational AI. So when we actually start talking about the ability to be able to make a difference for the end customer, there's one key thing that I think is important, and that's about the appropriate service at the right time. So we've all experienced issues with automation when the experience has been poor. And I think you're smiling there, Eric, and you're thinking, oh, I can remember that time. So actually looking at how organizations want to ensure that they provide the experience that's really the right time for the right type of transaction is the heart of what we're looking to try and do. And the whole of the Verint portfolio allows us to be able to do that. But it's about thinking about the right transactions to be able to automate, and those where you need a live agent, being able to have the right context, the right information to be able to delight the end customer.
Yeah, that's all really important, and you hit one nail squarely on the head there, which is knowing what to automate, how to automate, and when to automate. And of course, you always want the manual override, correct? Like when things are going bad, you want to be able to pull the handle and slow it down and bring in the agents. And that all really goes back to the data and the architecture too. Do you want to talk a bit about the architecture of these solutions? Because as you said, you started off on-prem, now I'm sure heavily in the cloud, but I think on-prem's legacy will live on for a long time. As they say, the rumors of on-prem's demise have been somewhat exaggerated. But tell us how the architecture is changing from your perspective.
So I'll give you an example of a very large mobile provider that, in Europe. And the architecture that they have, they've got an on-prem architecture, but as far as all of their AI and automation, that's done in the cloud. And that is utilizing, so this specific provider has been able to automate 59% of all the traffic. Now that is a total of 36 million calls a year are being automated. But the key thing about that is being able to drive the Net Promoter Score up. So over the same period, they've increased their Net Promoter Score by 27 points. So being able to look at the two things in conjunction, I think, is really important. The other thing you mentioned, which is around being able to migrate to the cloud at the right time, I think is really important. What we've seen is people moving to the public cloud, but they're replacing a lot of the technology that was on premise, and they're replacing it with on the cloud, but without getting any of the real benefits. And I really think that the types of solutions that Verint and Sabio are looking to try and put together is being able to actually extract value for the enterprise customers that we work with. But we've got to think about two major components, two sets of populations as we do so. The first one is the end customer. So it's about having user-centered design engineers sitting on the customer side of the fence to actually sit in your shoes when you're actually engaging with an insurance company, an airline, or a utility. And then secondly, it's about having speech scientists, about being able to tune the bots and being able to tune the AI engines to allow us to be able to maximize the operational run for customers. And what we're seeing is that that's where the next phase of automation and workforce engagement management is sitting in that space.
Yeah, we're really going to see a lot of change, I think, over the next probably 2 to 5 years in terms of who's doing what in organizations. And I think the real success factor is going to be getting team members who are willing to use the new technologies, who are willing to embrace new ways of doing things, as opposed to fearing the use of these technologies and trying to work around them. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking a little bit at one of the management meetings I was in this morning. Dan spoke about summarization as being a really, really good benefit from a generative AI perspective. And I agree totally. But there's also auto translation, which is incredibly useful, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
But also, there was a really good use case, which is when somebody sends through an email, typically the SLA on an email is 1 day, 2 days. So if a customer ends up sending through an email and wants to cancel their hotel booking for 2 days' time, and they send it by email, that might not get looked at. However, we've designed a use case specifically for this for one of our travel customers. And specifically what that was looking to do is to be able to understand the email that comes through, that if the date of cancellation was the 29th of November, it actually uses the knowledge that's in the email to be able to route it directly, answer the question,
Wow.
present an email that would go back to the customer. But we could also have human intervention into that, where you could actually route that to a live agent. Now, I believe that would be amazing customer experience. And that's the type of way in which we can use, I believe, generative AI to really, really move the dial.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, really, you think about it, the power of AI, the power of analytics, the power of automation, these things come together with appropriate data. Of course, a baseline of data is requisite. I mean, you can use adversarial models. I don't know if we'll have time to get into all that, but to be able to capture, to receive the email, understand the syntax, the key messages inside there, and then take action to respond to that. Wow. That's what we've been hoping for like the last 20, 30 years, right?
Absolutely. And if you think about,
Oh, sorry, I was trying to hit mute there. I hit the wrong button. Go ahead.
so if you think that from an agent perspective, if you're actually having the message being typed for you and it's suggesting you're just checking it, I think that reduces repetitive work and it allows you to really go and help the customer, which is what we're all here to do.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the different component parts coming together and being able to serve the purpose of helping out the client and also have a record such that when the person who works at the company comes around and checks in on that, they can see what happened, they can score. And that's really the curation side of this whole storyline, right? Is being able to monitor. I've seen some of these really good tools lately, monitor what the Gen AI is coming up with and being able to curate that and say yes, no, or maybe tweak this a little bit until you get it right. And then you let the automation do its thing, right?
Absolutely. And I think that, the individual that was demonstrating this was from Glasgow, all right? And he actually was able to get personality. So we saw the first version, which was a very polite response. But when he actually changed it and said, could you have it in Glaswegian? All right, so you can pick it. Literally, you could had a completely different email that was being written, which put real personality into the response. Which I think for various different certain companies and certain populations, I think it's a superb way of being able to give the bot some real identity.
Yeah, that's also amazing that they can pick up on dialects and different ways of phrasing things and then sort of reflect back to the user what they wanted to hear in their own language. That makes people feel comfortable. I mean, we heard Dan talking about it earlier, this term delight. It is delightful if you feel you've been heard, if you feel that your situation has been handled properly. That's when you're a happy customer, that's when you come back, and that's the whole objective of customer experience, right, Andy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to ensure that when somebody is interacting with a company, it's an appropriate service that dealt with quickly, swiftly, 24/7 through automation, where it's simple and it needs to be relatively easy to use. But when it is a 999 call, your car's broken down, you need roadside assistance, you're in distress, sentiment analysis was mentioned by Dan earlier on. All these things you want to, if somebody's getting angry, getting frustrated, you want to try and diffuse the situation, and you want to be able to use the appropriate service, which quite often is live service.
Yeah, and we should point out too, it's not just humans or bots. It's really humans with bot assistance or augmentation, right? Because
Yes.
you can have a human on the call with someone, but the AI engine is in the background listening to things and can figure something out and then boom, make a suggestion or come out and say, "Hey, offer this, offer that." The idea is that you get this team basically working with you as a call center operative talking to the customer, and behind the scenes all these little bots are doing their thing to give you advice and to help you along the way, right?
Yeah, but being able to provide assisted service and being able to take out any after call work, being able to ensure that the repetitive tasks for the agents as well is being reduced. All these things will make people's life much better.
Yeah, I love it. Maybe we'll bring Dan back in here to comment on some of this stuff too. Dan, when I think about the coalescing of these different technologies and different workflows, once again, if you have the data underneath to map it, we're dealing with a completely different environment than we were just 2 or 3 years ago. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, we focused on the bots that are helping the agent in real time, but we have bots that are helping other personas in the contact center. For example, the compliance team, right? There are people that their job is to make sure that all the interactions are in compliance, especially in healthcare and financial services. And these people, what they need to do is actually they need to sample a small number of calls and randomly listen to these calls to make sure that all the mandatory statements have been made and the call is basically compliant. And there's sometimes, there's industries where you have to make the mandatory statement within the first 30 seconds of the call. Otherwise,
Right.
you're out of compliance. So our compliance bot will actually listen not just to a random sample, but compliance bot will listen to 100% of the call and
Wow.
automatically find non-compliance issues. So it really is another bot that helps the compliance team. There are bots that are helping the supervisors. There are bots that are helping managers to make better decisions. And so when you think about all these bots helping different roles around the contact center, now you can get really the whole machine to do what Andy said, right? Which is to focus on how do we actually do a better job for our end customers, and it's all within the same budget and resource.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And as I've learned over the years, these bots, they do have to have very specific tasks. I mean, I'm sure we're going to be getting better with these things to where they can be more versatile and do different things. But at the point in time we are right now, you want them to do very specific things and to do them well and to measure all of that.